Hello everyone, welcome to TutorLab. In today's video, we're going to be going through the Edexcel GCSE Maths Foundation Paper 1 from June 2018 or May 2018. So I'm going to be going through every single question and go through the method step by step. I'm going to point out the most common mistakes that I have seen from my students, and also feel free to pause the video and have a go at each of the questions before I go through them. Alright. If you find this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe for more GCSE Maths walkthrough, past papers and exam tips. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so we'll get started with question 1. It says write 6,324 correct to the nearest 1,000. Alright, so it says to the nearest 1,000, so I'm just going to rewrite the whole entire number over here. So we've got 6,324. Now I've circled 1,000, so we are rounding to the nearest 1,000. So I'm going to go to my 1,000 and I'm just going to kind of like block that off. Alright, so I'm just going to put a line over here. So I am rounding this number over here. Alright, we are rounding this number over here. However, in order for us to determine if we are going to round up or round down, we must look at the next number. Alright, so the next number is 3. Now remember, if it is 4 or below, we round down, and if it is 5 and above, then we round up. Alright, and since 3 is 4 or below, that means we round down. So because we're rounding to the nearest 1,000, this will just go down to 6,000. Had it have been, let's say for example, 6,524, because this is a 5 or above, so because it's 5, it will round up. So what does it round up to? It will round up to the next 1,000, not to the next nearest 100 or to the next 10. It will round up to the next 1,000, right? So 6,000. Perfect. Question 2. It says write the following numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest number. The biggest mistake a lot of students do is they go largest to smallest. Just clear misreading of the question. That's one thing. And also remember that the greater the negative number, the smaller. Alright, so if I draw a number line out here and we have 0 and we have, let's say, 100 here and we have minus 1,000 here, this is smaller and this is larger. Alright, remember, the greater the negative number, the smaller. Alright, so it's kind of reverse. When we work in positives over here, the bigger the number, the larger, yeah? But when we go to negatives over here, the bigger the number, the smaller it is. So the biggest negative number will be the smallest over here, so it would be minus 6, then minus 5, then 0, then 6, then 12. Alright. Part B says to do the same exact thing, again starting with the smallest number, but now we're working with decimals. Now over here, we are looking at what is closest to 1. The one that is further away from 1 is the smallest, and the one that is closest to 1 will be the largest. Alright, so the one that is smallest, which is most furthest from 1, is 0.078, so 0.078. Now we can focus on these. So we have 0.7 here, or 0.78 and 0.708. So let's use the number line to kind of work this out. We know that 0.87 will be the largest, so let's just put that here already. Okay, now let's put 0.7 over here. I'm going to zoom in over here now. So we have 0.78 and 0.078. Well, if I just make this, okay, no worries. So we have 0.78. If you look at the number line, and we have 0, let's just say 0.8 over here, okay? 0.78 will be here. 0.708 will be here. Okay, so we can clearly see that 0.78 is greater than 0.708. So it will be 0.708 and then 0.78. and that is question 2. Question 3 says write 20% as a fraction. Now remember, a percentage is always out of 100. Percent. Okay, cent means 100 and percent, so per cent. Okay, so per is just like a slash and then cent would be 100, so out of 100. All right, so we have basically 20 out of 100, and that's it. We've written it as a fraction. If you want, I'm pretty sure you could possibly simplify it, but because it's a 20% as a fraction, I think you have to keep it just like this, so probably do not simplify it. Question 4. Here is a list of 4 fractions: 4 over 16, 2 over 8, 15 over 60, and 3 over 9. One of these fractions is not equivalent to a quarter. Write down this fraction. So over here, we're just going to simplify each of the fractions, and we're going to see if they are equivalent to a quarter. So we have 4 over 16. Now, I know that the numerator needs to get to 1, okay? I know that the numerator is 1, so I have to go from 4 to 1. So I just divide by 4, okay? So I do the same to the bottom as well. Remember, whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. So divide this by 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So that means 4 over 16 is equivalent to a quarter. So it's not this one. We have 2 over 8. Once again, we do the same exact thing. But over here, we divide by 2. So we divide by 2 over here. 8 divided by 2 is 4. This is a quarter as well. So they're equivalent to each other. So therefore, it can't be 2 over 8 either. We have 15 over 60. Divide this by 15. And divide this by 15. 60 divided by 15 is 4. So they are equivalent to each other, so it can't be this one. So by elimination, we know that it is just 3 over 9. But just to go over the working out, if we were to simplify 3 over 9 and we were to get 1 in the numerator, if you divide this by 3 and divide the denominator by 3, 9 divided by 3 is 3. So a third is not equal to a quarter. So therefore, 3 over 9 is not equivalent to a quarter. Question 5. Write down the first even multiple of 7. Remember, even just means that it could be divided by 2. And obviously the answer must be a whole number. That's what it means by divided by 2. The answer that you get must be a whole number, okay? So if I just write out my 7 times table here, 7, 14, 21, I've already got my first even multiple of 7, which is 14. Question 6. Simplify 3 times 4t. Now, what I've seen with a lot of my students is that when it comes to 4t, they get quite shook. They don't really know what 4t means. When it comes to algebra, when you have a number and a letter together, they are basically just multiplying each other, all right? But in algebra, we do not need to write the multiplication symbol between the number and the letter, all right? So you can just write it next to each other. Easy 1 mark over here. You just need to know that the number is multiplying the letter. So if I rewrite this, it's basically just saying 3 times 4 times t. Now that's easy because 3 times 4 we know is just 12, and 12 times t is just 12t. Again, the number and the letter are multiplying, so you do not need to write the multiplication sign. B says simplify 8a minus 3a plus 2a. So this is basically just collecting like terms, but there is no other term other than a. So all we need to do is basically just do 8a minus 3a plus 2a, and our answer will also be in terms of a as well, or it will be a. So 8 minus 3 is 5, plus 2 is 7, so we have 7a. Perfect. Yeah. Question 7. Question 7 says here is a probability scale. It shows the probability of each of the events A, B, C, and D. Write down the letter of the event that is certain. The event that is certain is the event that has a probability of basically 100%. And 100% is basically just equal to 1. Probabilities always add up to 1. Okay? So the one that will 100% happen, that is certain, will be D, because D is at 1. Okay? Part B says write down the letter of the event that is unlikely. Now, a lot of students here might get thrown off and think that it is A, but it is not A, because the wording of the question is such that it's designed to basically throw you off. But the keyword is unlikely. It doesn't say that write down the letter of the event that will not happen. It says it is unlikely. So it will still happen, it can still happen, but it's just unlikely. And that will be B, because B is the furthest away from 1, but it's not 0 either. Okay, so it's the lowest probability, which is not 0. 0 just means that it will never happen, but B means that, you know, there is a slight possibility that it can happen. So the answer is B. Question on to part C now. To do a little bit of reading over here. So there are 12 counters in a bag. 3 of the counters are red, so we can write that down. So 3 red. 1 of the counters is blue, so 1 blue. 2 of the counters are yellow, 2 yellow. And the rest of the counters are green, so we don't really know how many greens there are. We need to work this out. Caitlin takes at random a counter from the bag. Show that the probability that this counter is yellow or green is 2/3. Now, first of all, we need to work out how many greens there are. We know that in total there's 12 counters in the bag, so we can easily just work out how many there are that are green. So if we do 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus question mark is what we're finding out, this must equal 12. So to work out what that question mark is, we can just do 12 minus 3 minus 1 minus 2. And that equals to the question mark. So 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. So question mark equals 6. So there's 6 green. Okay. Now, the probability of getting a yellow is 2/12. And the probability of getting a green is 6/12. So if we just want to work out the probability of getting a yellow or a green, we just add the 2. And that would just be 8/12. If you simplify this, you get 2/3. And we've shown it. So that's the end of the question, and we get that right. On to question 8. 3 kg of meat costs £54. Nina buys 2 kg of meat. Work out how much Nina pays. So over here, what I always do is I basically write down exactly what it's saying. Okay. So 3 kg equals £54. Literally just write it out like that. Okay. Now, the first step that we're going to do is we're going to work out how much 1 kg is worth. And then we can just multiply by 2 to work out 2 kgs. So we're going to go down to 1 kg. Okay, so to go from 3 to 1, we divide by 3. So we're going to divide by 3 on the other side as well. Now remember, paper 1 is a non-calculator, so I'm not going to use our calculator for this. We can use the bus stop method. So 3 on the outside and then 54 over here. 5 goes into 3 once with remainder 2. 24 goes into 3 8 times. So 18. So 1 kg of meat will cost £18. Now we just need to work out 2 kgs, so we can just multiply by 2. So we multiply by 2 on the other side as well. And 18 times 2, again, you can't use your calculator, so if you need, you can always do column method. So 18 times 2, 2 times 8 is 16. And then 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3, so 36. So we've got £36. So 2 kg equals £36. Just write that here. Perfect. Now we are on to question 9. The center of this circle is marked with a cross X. Write down the mathematical name of the straight line shown in the circle. So this line goes from the center to the circumference. So this is just the radius. Okay. Remember, the radius must touch the center of the circle. If the line does not touch the center of the circle, that is not a radius. Okay. So yeah, and if it doesn't touch the diameter, then it's not a radius. Sorry, the circumference. If it does not touch the circumference, it is not a radius as well. Part B says write down the mathematical name of the straight line that is touching the circle. Now this is just touching it on the circumference, so this is known as a tangent. Okay, it just touches it and it goes. Okay, so it just goes off on a tangent. All right, so you know how people say you're going off on a tangent? A good way to remember that the line is just going off, so she's going off a tangent. All right, so this is a tangent over here. Question 10. So this is a word problem. How many marks is this? 3 marks, so it shouldn't be too bad. Let's go through it. 10. Tim and 3 friends go on a holiday together for a week. The 4 friends will share the cost of the holiday equally. So that's important. They will share it equally. Here are the costs of the holiday. 1,280 for 4 return plane tickets. So I'm going to actually write all of the costs down and then just add them together later on. Pretty sure that's what we need to do anyways. £640 for the villa, and 220 for hire of a car for the week, so 220. Work out how much Tim has to pay for his share of the costs. So the first step is we need to work out the total costs, and then we can just divide it by 4 so we can see how much each person will pay, because there's 4 of them. And they all pay equally as well, so they're all going to pay the same amount. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 is just 0. Over here we can do 8 plus 2, which is 10, plus 4, 14. We have a 2 plus 2, which is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And then 1 plus 1 is just 2. So 2,140 is the total cost of the trip. Now the 4 of them are going, and they're distributing the cost equally between themselves, so we can just divide this by 4. So 2,140 divided by 4. Again, paper 1 is non-calculator, so we have to do this using the bus stop method. 2 goes into 4 0 times, so we have 21 now. 21 goes into 4 how many times? So that would be 5 times, because 5 times 4 is 20. Remainder 1. 14 goes into 4 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. One thing that actually might help is actually writing down your 4 times tables. So I'd probably just write it down to 4 times 5, which is 20. So I've got 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. 4 times 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So this is a bit more visual now, yeah? So 14 goes into 4 3 times. There we go. How much is the remainder? Well, our remainder is 2. And then 20 goes into 4, well, 5 times. So your answer is just 535. Each person pays 535. So obviously Tim will also pay £535. Perfect. Okay. Write down an example to show that each of the following 2 statements is not correct. The factors of an even number are always even. Okay. Remember, factors are just number that divides exactly into another number without leaving a remainder. Okay, so it's the whole number that divides exactly into another number. So 36, let's take for example. Let's look at some of the factors that we have. So we have 1 and 36. So it says the factors of an even number are always even. Well, 1 is not even. We have 9 and 4. Yeah, 9 and 4. 9 is not even. So already we've just proved it. So how would we actually write this down? Well, you can just write down the factor. So just write 9 times 4, okay, equals 36. And maybe just a small little conclusion, yeah? So we can say that 36, okay, I'll write here. So 36 is an even number and has a factor 9, which is odd. Therefore, statement is not correct. Now I'm looking at the mark scheme right now, and it says that either you can give an example or you can write a statement. So either one would have done. So if you just left it at this, you still would have got the mark, or if you wrote a conclusion, okay? But sometimes examiners won't always be this lenient, and they will require a statement in a proving question where you have to prove something, okay? Part B, all the digits in odd numbers are odd. Okay, so this is quite easy. Remember, an odd number is just a number that does not end in 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. Okay, so just think of any number that does not end in this. So 543, 543. This is an odd number because it cannot be divided by 2. But one of the digits is an even number. So that means that clearly not all of the digits are odd. So we can just write that down over here. So 543. And again, it just says an example is sufficient, or you can either write a statement. I'm not going to write a statement, but 543, we've given an example, so we get the mark there. Perfect. Okay, question 12. A shop sells computers. A shop sells desktop computers, laptops, and tablets. The composite bar chart shows information about sales over the last 3 years. So here's the graph, and they've given us a key. So the black is desktop computers, the striped is laptops, and the grey is tablets. They've given us information for the number of each of those sold for 2015, 2016, and 2017. So it says write down the number of desktop computers sold in 2015. So again, remember, the black is the desktop computers, so that would just be this over here. So let me do this in red. So just this bit over here, alright? Well, that clearly just goes up to 100 right here. So that's 100 there, okay? It says work out the total number of laptops sold in the 3 years. So laptops is the striped bit, okay? Now, one thing where a lot of students go wrong is they think that the amount of laptops that this company would have sold starts from here. So let me do this in green. So it starts from here and it ends over here for laptops, okay? Remember, laptops is only this bit over here. So this bit is laptops. But a lot of students, they actually mistaken this, and they think that it will be all of this bar over here. So all of this, okay, including that black bit, which is desktop computers, which is just completely wrong. And I've seen this a lot of times. So you need to ensure that you are just focusing on this bit over here and working out what this number is, okay? Similarly, for 2016, you're just focusing on the bar over here, and for 2017 you're just focusing on the bar over here. So we can work out these numbers over here now. So for 2015, the bar goes from 100 to somewhere over here, so we can figure out what that is. So we know they're going up in hundreds, so this would probably be 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Yeah. So that means that's 220, 240, 260. So 260. So we can just do 260 minus 100 to work out what this bit is over here, okay? So 260 minus 100 is 160. So this bit over here is 160. So let's write that down. We can work out what this bit is. This bit goes from here. Let me actually do this in a completely different color, so it's a lot more visible. So I'll do this in red. So this is 120, and it stops at 340. So we can do 340 minus 120, which is 220. So that bar over there is 220. And finally, we can work out the last bit, which I will do in blue. Now this one goes from here, and if we need to read this off, this would be, if that's 120, 40, 60, so that'll be 160. And it stops at, just take that over, to 440. So you do 440 minus 160, which is 280. So 280. So we have 160, 220 and 280. So to work out the total number of laptops sold in the 3 years, we just add those three numbers together. So 160 plus 220 plus 280. If you add these together, you should get 660. And that is your answer. Okay, so again, the biggest misconception over here is that the bar starts at all the way from the bottom. Okay, they do not start at the bottom, they start where the previous bar stops, basically. Okay, part C, state the item that had the greatest increase in sales over the 3 years. Give a reason for your answer. Clearly we can see that it's tablets. Okay, if you look at the tablets bar, I'll do this in yellow. In year 1, or in 2015, the bar is just this small, and then 2016 it gets bigger, and 2017 it gets a lot more bigger. Okay, proportionally. If you look at the laptops, they also grow as well. The bar for that also grows as well. The bar itself, not the whole entire bar for all three, but I'm talking about the individual bars. Yeah, it looks like the laptops one also increases, but clearly not as much as the tablets. And desktop computers also increases as well, but again, not even as much as laptops. So definitely not as much as tablets either. Okay, so clearly it's tablets. You can just see from the graph. But for your reason, we can write that the bars get proportionally longer over time. over time, all right? So the most is in 2017 and the least is in 2015. But you could also get a bit numerical and actually work out the increases in all of the three things. So you can work out the increase in tablets from 2015 to 16 to 2017. You can do the same for laptops and tablets, and then you can just read off that and see which one has the greatest increase. That's a bit long because obviously you can just see from the graph that tablets is the answer. But if you were unsure in the exam and probably didn't know how to give a proper reason behind as to why you just say, oh, I can just see it, you could then use numbers, okay? And in the question, if they do say, you know, show, or they say state the item that had the greatest increase in sales, and they tell you to state some numericals or state some numbers, then obviously you would have to use some numbers from the graph. Alex says that in 2017 more tablets were sold than the desktop computers. This means the shop makes more profit from the sales of tablets than from the sale of desktop computers. Is he correct? You must justify your answer. This will throw a lot of students off, and they will directly think that more sales means more profit, which is just completely incorrect. Remember, it's all dependent on price, okay? Just because you've sold more doesn't mean that you made more profits. Maybe it was that the tablets are cheaper, so yes, they probably did make more sales, but because they're cheaper, they probably didn't gain enough revenue from it, and therefore not enough profit. Whereas the desktop laptops or desktop computers, maybe they were a lot greater in price, and therefore even though they may have made a few sales, they would have generated a lot more revenue maybe, and then probably gain more profit as well. So we could say no, because we do not know the price, okay, of the tablets and desktop computers. There we go. Okay, so on to question 13 now. It says a piece of wire is 240 centimeters long. So this is our total length over here. Peter cuts two 45 centimeter lengths off the wire. He then cuts the rest of the wire into as many 40 centimeter lengths as possible. So to do this question, I would draw something out to actually visualize what is going on, because what I have seen in the past from my students is that there's too much going on over here, all right? And they just do not know that. They don't understand 45 being cut, then 45 being cut, and then how many 40 centimeters lengths can you get from the remaining. It gets quite daunting how much there is to do. So drawing out something and visualizing it, it will make the question a lot more simple, right? So this is our original string over here, and I'm going to label this 240 centimeters, okay? Now I cut 45 centimeter lengths off twice, so let's say this is 45 over here and this is 45 over here, okay? So here to here 45 centimeters, and here to here 45 centimeters. Now in total this is 90 centimeters. Now we want to focus on the remaining part, okay? So the remainder is just this bit over here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw that line over here. I'll do it in green. So this is our new line over here, okay? We want to figure out how much is that length, okay? So how much is the length over here? Well, to work this out, we can just do 240 minus 90, okay? So what would 240 minus 90 be? Well, if we subtract 40, that would just take us to 200, and then take away 50, that would be 150. So, let me just check that. I'm not wrong. Yeah, 150, okay? So this length over here is 150 centimeters. Now we want to cut this length into 40 centimeter lengths, but we're not sure right now how many we can cut them into, okay? So let's do it in red. We want to cut 150, so basically we want to divide 150 into 40 meter lengths, okay? 40 centimeter lengths, all right? So simply, we just do 150 divided by 40, simple bus stop method, okay? Now before I do this, I would probably write out my 40 times table just so that it helps me, okay? So that's going to be 40, 80, 120, 160, and 200. I'll write it to here. If I need more later on, you can always write them out, okay? Now we know that 1 does not go into 14, it goes in 0 times, 15 goes into 40 0 times, so we're on 150. Now 150 is somewhere here. So how many times does it go into 40? Well, it goes into it 3 times, but there is a remainder. Now remember, when there's a remainder and we're using bus stop method, if we are doing short division, we just carry it over, okay? Over here, and you put a 0 as a placeholder. So how much is our remainder? Now, the actual times table is 120, but we have 150. So what is the difference from 120 to 150? It's 30. So we're going to put 30 here. So our new number is 300. So we're just going to continue with our times table. So we're at 200. So now we need 240, 280, 320. So we want 300. So 300 is somewhere here. So how many times does 300 go into 40? Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Okay, but there is a remainder, and there's a remainder of 20. So put another 0 here as a placeholder, and 20. Because from 280 to 300, there's a 20 difference. So that's your remainder, okay? And 200 goes into 40 exactly 5 times. So your answer is 3.75, okay? But let's just put this into perspective a little bit. We can't have 3.75. 3.75 basically means that we have 3 whole lengths. So 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 whole lengths of 40 centimeters. So 40 centimeters, 40 centimeters, 40 centimeters, okay? So we have 3 whole lengths of 40 centimeters, and then we have one small length of 0.75, okay? This 0.75 is 0.75, or this is basically 75%, right? So it's basically 75% of 40 centimeters, okay? So this is one hole over here, this is another hole over here, this is another hole over here, but this over here is just 0.75, okay? So this is not actually 40 centimeters. We can actually work out how much it is, just so that you understand why we actually don't take this into our answer and just write 3.75, okay? Remember, this is 75%, all right? 75% as a fraction is just 3/4. So 3/4 of 40. This over here is 3/4 of 40, okay? I'll circle that, just so you know that that is that over there. And we'll continue in red, okay? So how much is 3/4 of 40? Well, that would just be 30, okay? Because 1/4 of 40 is 10. So 3/4 of 40 will be 30. So in actual fact, this length over here is 30 centimeters. So when they ask how many 40 centimeter lengths of wire can Peter cut, it's only 3 lengths, okay? Only 3 lengths of wire that he can cut, that will be 40 centimeters, okay? That 0.75 that we have over here, that is not 40 centimeters, that is 30 centimeters. To make it 40, he must add another 0.25. But because he doesn't have that yet, that's not 40 centimeters. So your answer, your final answer, will just be 3. Because he can cut 3 lengths of wire that are 40 centimeters, okay? So 1, 2, 3. So your answer would be 3 for this question. Question 14. Gavin, Harry and Isabel each earn the same monthly salary. Each month, Gavin saves 28% of his salary and spends the rest of his salary. Harry spends 3/4 of his salary and saves the rest. The amount of salary Isabel saves, so the ratio of the amount of salary Isabel saves to the amount of salary that she spends is 3:7. It's quite a lot that they've given us over here. Work out who saves the most of their salary each month. You must show how you get your answer. How many marks is this? 4 marks. It's a lot to do over here. So we'll take it step by step. A lot of students that I've seen, that I've actually tutored, they just tell me that they just get overwhelmed by reading, okay? So take it step by step. Let's focus first on the first statement over here. So let's focus on Gavin first. So let's focus on this guy over here. Okay, Gavin. He saves 28% and he spends his salary, the rest of it. Now, remember, we're just focusing on savings, so let's just work on the savings part. So 28% save, okay? Now, we don't actually know how much they earn, so we can't put a figure on it, okay? We can't actually put a numerical value on how much they save. I can't just say that Gavin saves £150 because I don't know how much he earns, so I can't work out 28% of that, okay? So what I need to do is I need to get, for each person, I need to get the amount that they save either as a fraction, a decimal, or a percentage, and then I can compare those, okay? So because we've already started off with percentage, we might as well just convert all of them to percentages. Or should we? Because when it comes to ratios, then it might be a little bit... No one. 28%, okay? So Gavin saves 28%. Now let's work on Harry. Okay, now on to Harry. We know that Harry saves 3/4. Spends. He spends 3/4. So if he's spending 3/4, he must save the rest, yeah? So if he spends 3/4, then he must save 1/4. Because remember, we want a whole number, right? We want 4 out of 4. But if he spends 3 out of 4, then he must save 1 out of 4. Because we just want a whole number, right? So 1/4 saves. We can convert this to a percentage. So we have 1/4. We want to get to 100, yeah? Remember, percentages are always out of 100. So we want the denominator to be 100. So how do we go from 4 to 100? We just multiply by 25. So we will multiply by 25 at the top as well. So there we go. So that's just 25%. Okay. 1/4 as a percentage, you should know that it is 25%. But obviously in the exam, if you do not know, then you can just quickly convert it like this. All right. So there we go. We've got Harry as well. Let's actually just write it down. So 25% saves. There we go. So he saves 25%. This up here. Oh my. And finally, we are on to Isabel now. Now Isabel, they've given us a ratio, okay? It says the ratio of saves to spends is 3 to 7. So saves to spends is 3 to 7. Now I want to work, because I'm just interested in how much she saves. So I'm going to work out the fraction of how much she saves. It's an actual tongue twister, this one. So I'm going to work out the fraction of how much salary of hers she saves. So that'll be 3 out of 10, okay? Why out of 10? Because the total parts is 10. So total parts is 10, okay? 3 plus 7, that's your total parts. Okay, so if we were to convert, basically if I was to do it visually, you'd have 3 parts that she saves and then 7 parts that she spends, okay? So the saving parts is 3 parts. So she saves 3 parts out of the 10, okay? And we just want to convert this to a fraction, sorry, to a percentage. So you just multiply by 10 at the bottom. So you multiply by 10 at the top as well. So you get 30. And that is just equal to 30%. So she saves 30%. Now we just compare the percentages. Whoever has the highest percentage, they save the most. So out of the 3, Gavin saves 28%, Harry saves 25%, and Isabel saves 30%. Therefore, Isabel saves the same. Isabel saves the most. That's it. That's all we need to show, and we've shown it as well. Perfect. Question 15. Work out 15% of 150 grams. Fairly easy question. I'm going to rewrite this 15% as a fraction. Okay? So that'll be 15 over 100 of 160. A lot of students get tripped up over here because they see of. What do I do if I just see of? Of just means multiply. So 15 over 100 multiply by 160. Now there's 2 things that we can do here. We can either divide 160 by 100, and then whatever our answer is, we just multiply by the numerator. Or I can just completely rewrite the fraction. I can rewrite 150 as a fraction. So it would be, so either you do method 1, okay, or you do method 2, which is 15 over 100 multiply by 160. But as a fraction, it would just be over 1, okay? Remember, whole numbers are always over 1. So it just be over 1. And then you can just multiply these like normal fractions. I'm going to take you through both of them just so you can see what to do. So if we do 160 divided by 100, this would be 1.6. And then you can do 1.6 multiplied by 15. Now here, it might start to get a little bit tricky. Decimals and multiplying it by whole numbers and whatever, it might get a little bit too much, yeah? You could still do it though, if you're confident with multiplying decimals. So the way we go about this is we'll convert this 1.6 to 16, okay? We just multiply that by 10. So we do 16 times 15. So if we do that, well, 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, so that's 80. Put a 0 here. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay? Now if you add this, 160 plus 180, sorry, 160 plus 80 is 240. Okay? But because we had multiplied by 10 over here, we have to divide by 10. So I'll bring this here, yeah? So 240 divided by 10, which would be 24. So 1.6 multiplied by 15 is 24, okay? So that's one way you could do it. So this is your answer here. Or, which I probably think would be a bit more suitable, is just doing it this way, okay? Over here, you could see that you can cross multiply 160 and 100. You could simplify them. But if that's too hard for you, just quickly just do it like this, and then you can simplify the fraction once you get it, okay? So how do we multiply fractions? You just multiply the numerators together and you multiply the denominators together. So 15 times 160. So you do, just do in blue. So you got 160. 160 multiplied by 15. I'll do it here because my pen's not working. Over there. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30, so you put 0 here and 3 here. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3 is 8. 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1. Add these together and you get 0, 0. 8 plus 6 is 14, so you got 4 there. And that's 2, there we go, okay? So you got 2,400 over 100, okay? Now, 2 zeros just cancel out, so you got 24 over 1, which is just 24. And there we go. So we have got 24 here as well. So that is your answer, 24, okay? It's really easy. I know it looked a little bit long because I was actually talking it through. But if you were to just do it, it's really easy, okay? So method 1 may be a little bit challenging because it's got that decimal, multiplying decimals. A lot of students struggle with that I have seen. So you could possibly just do step 2 or method 2, which is a lot more easier in my opinion. Okay, cool. Question 16, a bit of substitution. So P equals 4x plus 3y. Remember, in the previous question, I said that numbers and letters in algebra, when they are together, they are multiplying each other, okay? So what this is basically saying is 4 times x plus 3 times y, okay? So kind of like that. So it says work out the value of P when x equals 5 and y equals minus 2. So we're just going to substitute that in. So P equals 4, x is 5, plus 3, y is minus 2. Now these brackets, they just mean that they're multiplying. So this basically just means 4 times 5 plus 3 times minus 2, okay? So 4 times 5 is 20. And 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. So you got 20 minus 6, which is 14. And there we go. Your answer is 14. Part B says expand 4e, open bracket, e plus 2, close bracket. Now you're multiplying all the outside terms with the inside terms when you're expanding. Remember, when you expand, you're getting rid of the brackets. When you factorize, you're introducing brackets. So when we expand, we're multiplying everything that's outside with everything that's inside. So we do 4e multiplied by e, which is 4e squared. Why is it 4e squared? Well, we have 4 times e times e. Remember, when anything is multiplying itself, it's just squared, yeah? So just be 4e squared, okay? Just like 4 times 4 is 4 squared, e times e will be e squared, all right? So that's 4e squared. So I will put that here. And then you got 4e times 2. So what's 4e times 2? Well, you have 4 times e times 2. That's basically what we're saying. okay? We know that 4 times 2 is 8, so we have 8 times e, and 8 times e we can write as 8e. So this would just be 8e, and it's positive because we have a positive 2. So we have 4e squared plus 8e. That's it. Now question part C says solve. Whenever you see solve, this means that you're actually trying to work out the unknown. So you're working out a value for the unknown. To solve this, we must expand and then rearrange to work out m, okay? So the first step is expand, just like we did in the previous part of the question. Multiply everything that is outside with everything that is inside the bracket. So 3 times m, which is 3m, minus, or 3 times minus 4, which is minus 12, so you can put that there, equals 21. Now we need to rearrange the formula and make m the subject of the formula, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 12 on both sides. So this 12 and this 12 will just cancel basically. So what we're left with now is 3m equals 21 plus 12, which is 33. 21 plus 12, 33, yeah. Now here a lot of students, I've seen that they struggle. Again, back to the point that they just do not know that a letter and a number, when they're together, they are multiplying each other, okay? So it's basically, if I rewrite this, it's basically just saying that 3 times m equals 33. So the thing that is stopping m from being alone is the 3. And what is the 3 actually doing to the m? What operation is taking place there? Is multiplication. So if we want to get rid of the 3, we have to do the opposite, which is division. So we have to divide by 3, okay? So if I divide by 3, so over here, if I divide by 3, the times 3 and the divide by 3 will just cancel. So we're left with m, okay? So I can just say that we divide by 3 here and divide by 3 here. So the divide by 3 times by 3 cancel. So we're left with m equals 33 divided by 3 is just 11. So m equals 11, and that is your answer. Perfect. Question 17. Okay, so there are some chocolates in a box. A quarter of the chocolates contain nuts. The rest of the chocolates do not contain nuts. Write down the ratio of the number of chocolates that contain nuts to the number of chocolates that do not contain nuts. Give your answer in the form 1 to n. Now it's very important when it comes to ratios that you follow the order that they've given. We want the numbers of chocolates that contain nuts to do not contain nuts, okay? So you can say the ratio is contains to doesn't contain, okay? So contain to doesn't contain. That's the ratio that I want, alright? I know that a quarter of the chocolates contain nuts. So this means that 1 out of 4 contain nuts, okay? So 1 out of 4 contain nuts. That means the other 3 must not contain nuts. There we go. And that's our answer, because the total number is 4, because 1 out of 4 do not contain nuts. So what do I actually need to add to go from 1 to 4 is 3. So 3 do not contain nuts. Fairly simple question 2. Sorry, 2 marks. (18) A is multiples of 5 between 14 and 26, and B is odd numbers between 14 and 26. So I'm just going to write out what A is, and I'm going to write down what B is, okay? And then we can work it out. be a lot more easier, yeah? So A is the multiples of 5 between 14 and 26. So what is actually the multiples between 14 and 26 that are the multiples of 5? So we have 15, 20, and 25. The odd numbers between 14 and 26 is 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25. Okay? Now it says listed members of A. That sign right there means union. Okay? So A union B. Union just means all of it. Okay? So all of A and all of B. So I'm going to write down all of A and all of B. But I can see that there's a few repeats over here. So I have 15 and 15 repeating, and I have 25 and 25 repeating. So I just need to write that once. Okay? So all of A and all of B would be 15, 17, 19, 20, 21, 23, and 25. So 15, 17, 19, 20, 21, 23, and 25. Perfect. Part B says describe the members of A. This sign means intersect. So actually, let me write this down here. So this means union. Union. So it's just all of the probability. Basically, it would mean all of the probabilities. But in this case, we're not really talking about the probabilities. We're talking about the numbers. So if we were to basically draw a Venn diagram, okay, yeah, let me actually do that. Let me actually draw a Venn diagram so it's a lot more easier for us to see. Okay, so I have A here and I have B here. I know that A is 20, 15, and 25 goes in the middle because A and B, they both share 15 and 25, so that would go in the intersection part. And B would just be 17, 19, 21, and 23. So because we said union, that means all of A and all of B. So all of A and all of B would be all of this. So that's why we have all of these numbers over here. All right. Now part B says describe the members A intersect B. Okay, so A intersect B. So I'm just going to draw intersection. Okay, so this is the intersection between A and B. So it's the part where they just overlap, and that is this part here. So that would just be 15 and 25. Okay, so 15 and 25. Now it says describe, but I'm looking at the mark scheme and it says you either give a statement or you can just say 15 and 25. So if I just said 15 and 25, I would have got the mark. But because it says describe, I would probably actually just write a statement. So I would probably write that A and B are basically the odd numbers. Odd numbers. Odd numbers between 14 and, was it 26? Yeah. So they are the odd numbers between 14 and 26, which are also multiples of 5. And that's it. So you've actually described it now as well, yeah? I would probably go about describing them because obviously examiners tend to just get harder and harder as years progress, so I would describe and not just leave it at that. But the mark scheme does say that if you left it as 15 and 25, you would get the mark, but just to be safe, I would write a statement. Okay, I think drawing the Venn diagram does actually help. Remember, union is all of the events, so event A and B, not probability, events A and B, and the intersection is where they overlap. Cool. 2018, question 19. Question 19 is actually, I think this is question 1 on the higher paper for June 2018, paper 1. So how it works is that towards the ending of the foundation paper is the beginning of the higher paper. That's kind of how they do it. So you probably see a question or two overlap. Anyways, work out 2 wholes and 1/7 plus 1 whole and a quarter. So I'm going to convert this from an improper fraction, from a mixed fraction to an improper fraction, and then just work it out. So remember, to convert this 2 wholes and 1/7, yeah, we're going to multiply the whole number by the denominator, and then we're going to add the numerator. Okay, so multiply the whole number by the denominator, so 2 times 7, 14. Add the numerator, which is 1, so that'll be 15. Now what is our denominator? The denominator does not change, so that's just 7, okay? Plus, we have 1 and a quarter, so I'm just going to write this, so it's 15/7. So whole times the whole number times the denominator, so that's 1 times 4, plus 1 is 5, so you have 5/4. Now when it comes to adding fractions or subtracting fractions, the denominator must be the same before you can even add or subtract. Okay, so I'm going to just convert both of these to 28, okay, because that is a common multiple between 7 and 4. So how do I go from 7 to 28? I just multiply by 4. So I do 15 times 4 as well. Whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom as well, and vice versa. So whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So that would be 60. And then to go from 4 to 28, we multiply by 7. So I'm going to do the same for 5. I just multiply 7 times 5, which is 35. Now I can add these, so this would be 95/28, and that is my answer, 95/28. It does not say anything further. It doesn't say give your answer as a mixed fraction, so I can just leave it like this, and my answer will still be correct. Okay. Or if you want, you can convert it to a mixed fraction, but it's just not necessary. Part B says work out 1 whole and 1/5 divided by 3/4. Give your answer as a mixed number. So see, if they want your answer in a specific way, they will tell you, okay? And you have to give it. So as a mixed number in its simplest form. So again, first we're going to just convert this mixed number to an improper fraction. So 1 whole and 1/5 will be 1 times 5 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So it'll be 6/5. Okay, and the 3/4 will just stay like that. Okay, so we have 6/5, so 6/5. Actually, I can't even see 6/5. 6/5 divided by 3/4. Now, when it comes to dividing fractions, remember we have a little kind of acronym, KCF. So we keep the first fraction how it is. We change the operation, so we're going to change it from division to multiplication in this case, and then we flip the second fraction, so it's 3/4, so that just becomes 4/3. Okay, now we can multiply, so that'll be 24/15. But because they want it as a mixed number, we're going to see how many times is 24 going to 15. Well, that's just 1, and we have a remainder of 9/15. Okay, so that's it. But that's not a final answer, because 9/15 can be simplified. So what does that simplify to? If you divide top and bottom by 3, you get 3/5, and that is its simplest form. So it'll be 1 whole and 3/5. Okay, so that is your answer as a mixed number and in its simplest form. Okay, perfect. On to question 20 now. And question 20 says, in a village, the number of houses and the number of flats are in the ratio 4:7. The number of flats and the number of bungalows are in the ratio 8:5. There are 50 bungalows in the village. How many houses are in the village? Okay, so we have two ratios over here, okay? So we have houses to flats, which is 7 to 4. And then we have flats to bungalows, which is 8 to 5. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to do over here is I'm going to create a ratio for all three. Okay. So I want to create a ratio for houses to flats to bungalows. Okay. Now, how do I do this? Well, I'm just going to write these like this. Okay. So I have, one second. So I have houses to flats. Okay. To bungalows. Now, houses to flats I know is 7 to 4. And I know flats to bungalows is 8 to 5. So I'm just going to write that underneath. Now, there's something common over here. The common factor, basically, over here is flats. Okay? Flats comes with the ratio of houses, but flats also comes with the ratio of bungalows. So that's something that we can use to then kind of compare, basically, okay? So what I can do over here is, I'm going to do this in red, is that I can make this over here, I can make that ratio into 8, okay? So what I'm trying to do over here is basically I'm trying to get both of these ratios to be the same. Once they're the same, then I can compare the other two, houses and bungalows, okay? So I'm just going to multiply this by 2 and multiply this by 2. So what will our new ratio be now? So we have houses to flats to bungalows. 7 times 2 is 14. 4 times 2 is 8. And then we just have 8 and 5. Now, if we look, both of these ratios are the same. So therefore, we can just write that as 1. Okay? So now that shortens it down to houses to flats to bungalows will just be 14 to 8 to 5. And that is our ratio for all three houses, flats and bungalows. Okay, now it says that there are 50 bungalows. Okay, 50 bungalows in the village. Remember, these fractions show us parts. Okay, so houses is 14 parts, flats is 8 parts, and bungalows is 5 parts. Okay, so I can say that 5 parts equals 50. Okay, because the ratio for bungalows is 5, and that 5 is equal to 50. Okay, so that 5 parts is equal to 50. We want to work out how many houses there are. Well, houses is 14 parts, so I could probably just go from 5 to 14, but maybe have to multiply by some decimal or something, and it's a non-calculator paper, so there's no point doing that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to work out one part first, okay? So I'm going to divide by 5 to get one part. So I can divide by 5 over here, and that will give me 10. So one part is equal to 10, okay? So if I want 14 parts, I'm just going to multiply by 14, okay? I'm going to multiply by 14 over here, so that gives me 140. So that means there are 140 houses, and that is your answer. Question 21. Rennie buys 5 kg of sweets to sell. She pays £10 for the sweets. Okay, so I'll write that down. Costs is £10. Okay, I can see that they're using pence over here, so maybe I'll just convert it to pence. Maybe I might need it later on in the question. Now remember, £1 is equal to 100 pence. Okay, so £10 is 1,000 pence. Okay, remember, in the exam, you cannot just do it in your head. Just write it down like this. Okay, it will help you a lot. So 1,000 pence. I'm just going to write that here. 1,000 pence. Now let's continue reading the question. Rennie puts all the sweets into bags. She puts 250 grams of sweet. Okay, again, now I can see that they're using grams here and they're using kg over here. So let's do a bit of a conversion here. Okay, so we have 5 kg of sweets. How much is that in grams? Okay, now 1 kg is equal to 1,000 grams. So 5 kg, you just multiply by 5 here, will be equal to 5,000 grams. Okay, now she puts 250 grams of sweets into each bag. She sells each bag of sweets for 65p. When he sells all the bags of sweets, work out her percentage profit. Okay, so we need the answer of her profit as a percentage. Now, first of all, I need to work out how many bags does she actually make. Now, I know that she has each bag has 250 grams of sweets in it. In total, she has 5,000 grams. Okay, so I can just do 5,000 divided by 250. Now, these ones will just cancel, so that means 500 over 25. I can use by and bus stop method for this now. 5 goes into 25 0 times. 50 goes into 25 twice. And 0 goes into 25 0 times. So she has 20 bags. She makes 20 bags of sweets from the 5,000 grams that she has, okay? So 20 bags, all right? Now she sells each bag for 65p. So I'm going to do 20 multiplied by 65 pence, okay? So 5 times 0 is just 0. 5 times 2 is 10. Put a 0 there as a placeholder. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. Add these up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 1 plus 2 is 3. And remember, there's a 0 over here. Imaginary 0 as a placeholder. So 1 plus 0 is just 1. So 1,300 pence. Okay? This is how much revenue she makes, okay? So I'm going to write this out all over here. So cost is 1,000 pence. Her revenue, how much she makes, is 1,300 pence. And her profit, therefore, will just be revenue minus cost, which is just 300 pence. Now, we want her percentage profit. So her percentage profit is her profit over her cost times 100, okay? So so that's her profit, 300. Her cost is 1,000, and we're multiplying this by 100. And remember, this is all in pence, okay? Now, these two zeros can just cancel with that, okay? So we have 3 over 10 multiplied by 100, okay? Now, 3 over 10 is just 0.3. So you have 0.3 multiplied by 100. And 0.3 multiplied by 100 is 30%. And that is your answer. 30%. So her percentage profit is 30%. So she makes 30% profit on whatever she sold. Okay? And that is your answer. So over here, it was crucial that we use our metric conversions and convert from kilograms to grams, from pounds to pence, and then use our other steps like dividing, multiplying, and all of that to get to our final answer and writing up our percentage profit. Perfect. Question 2 now. It says that a cycle race across America is 3,069.25 miles in length. Juan knows his average speed for his previous races is 15.12 miles per hour. For the next race across America, he will cycle for 8 hours per day. Estimate how many days Juan will take to complete the race. Now it says estimate. Whenever you see estimate, we're not using the actual values that they've given, okay? We're just estimating. If we were to work out with the actual values that they gave, they will tell us work out how many days, okay? But they've said estimate how many days. So we're just going to round all of the values that were given, okay? So 3069.25. So round this to one significant figure. So that will give us 3000, okay? 15.12 was round this to the nearest whole number. So we get 15, okay? Perfect. 8 will obviously just stay how it is because it's already a whole number. We don't need to round that, okay? Alright. Now, let's rewrite this, okay? So his race is now 3 miles. On average, his average speed is 15 miles per hour, okay? And obviously he cycles 8 hours per day, okay? Per day. So from here, I can see that in 1 hour, he cycles 15 miles, yeah? So in 8 hours, how much would he cycle? So we do 15 times 8. So 8 times 5 is 45. And 8 times 1, no, sorry. Eight times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 1. Plus the 4 is 12. So 120 miles, okay? So in 8 hours, just put that here. In 8 hours, he travels 120 miles. So that means basically in 1 day. Because remember, in 1 day, he only cycles for 8 hours. So in 1 day, he travels 120 miles. I want to know how many days does it take this person to travel 3,000 miles. So how do I go from 120 to 3,000? So I can just do 3,000 divided by 120. Okay. So actually, to make this a little bit more simple for myself, I'm going to do 3,000 divided by 120. So these zeros will just cancel. So now I have 300 over 12. This is a lot more easier for me to calculate, yeah? So I just need to write down my 12 times table now, okay? So we have 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. Let's keep it at that. 3 goes into 12 0 times. So we look at 30 now. 30 goes into 12 how many times? 2 times. With remainder 6. Because from 24 to 30, there's a remainder of 6. And 60 goes into 12 perfectly and exactly 5 times. So to go from 120 to 3,000, I will have to multiply by 25, yeah? So I just do the same over here. So multiply by 25. So you have 25 days. And that is your answer. 25. So roughly, on estimate, it will take him 25 days to complete the race. Now it says Juan trains for the race. The average speed he can cycle at increases. It is now 16.27 miles per hour. How does this affect your answer to part A? Now remember, if he is cycling a lot faster, then his time will reduce. Okay? His time will not increase. He's running a lot quicker. If he's running quicker, then the time taken for him to complete the race, cycling, for the time taken to complete the race, it will be a lot less. Okay? So we could just say less days required. Less days required. Do we have to write an explanation? Yeah, that's it. You don't need to do any explanation or anything. You can just write less days required. Okay? Perfect. Alright. On to question 23. This looks a bit of a hectic question. 2 marks and then 4 marks. Okay. So over here, it says here is a solid square-based pyramid, VABCD. The base of the pyramid is a square of sides 6 centimeters. The height of the pyramid is 4 centimeters. M is the midpoint of BC, and VM equals 5 centimeters. Okay. Draw an accurate front elevation of the pyramid from the direction of the arrow. Okay. Front elevation. So this is the front view. So we're looking at it straight here. So if I was to draw a person over here, for example, and you're looking at it this way. So just imagine yourself looking at that from the front. You're going to basically see this over here. You're basically just going to see this bit over here. This, and this. You're basically going to see that highlighted bit, which is basically just a triangle. So we're just going to draw that triangle over here, and we know that the base is going to be 6 centimeters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, just leave it as that. And then we also know that the height is 4 centimeters, yeah? 4 centimeters, okay? So from the middle, we're going to go up 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And then we can just join it together over here. Have they given us a key or anything? We don't need this bit over here, so we can just get rid of that. And that is our triangle done. It's an isosceles triangle with a base 6 centimeters, height 4 centimeters. That's what it says in the mark scheme. And yeah, done. That's it. Okay, perfect. So that is the answer for this question over here. And we're done. I'm going to rub this all out because we need to annotate for the next part. Okay, part B says work out the total surface area. Okay, the total surface area. I'm just going to draw a little like cube over here. Remember, when we are talking about surface area, it's a bit of a bad cube. Remember, when we talk about surface area, we are working out the area of all of the faces of the side, okay, of the shape. So we're going to work out the area for this over here, the front face, the 2 side faces, the back face, the top and the bottom. That looks horrendous. Okay, but that's what we're basically doing. So we're going to do that for this question now. So it says to work out the total surface area. Now I know that the surface area is going to be, for the front and the back is going to be a triangle. For the side, for the 2 sides, they're also going to be triangles. And then for the base, it's just going to be a square. Okay, so let's do this over here. Don't know if I can get 2 of them together. Okay, first of all, we need to work out, so write down the formula for the area of a triangle, okay? So area of a triangle, remember, it's just a half base times height, yeah? So we know a half, our base for all of them is 6, okay, because that's the square, remember? So all of these lengths over here will just be the same. So that would be 6 multiplied by well, what is our height? The height of the triangle itself. The height of the triangle itself is 5. Okay, we can see that over here. That is the height of the triangle itself. Okay, so the height of the triangle is 5. So a half, base is 6, height is 5. Okay, so 6 times 5 is 30. Half 30 is 15. So the area of one triangle is 15. So for 4 triangles, you just do 4 times 15, which is 2 is 30, should be 60. Okay, so that is for the triangles, all of the triangles put together. Okay, now we need to work out the area of the square. Okay, the area of the square, so area of the square is just going to be 6 times 6, which is 36. Okay, because remember, area of the square is just base times height. The base is 6 and the height is also 6, so it's just 36. Okay, so we have our area for the triangle, which is 60. We have the area for our square, which is 36. So our total area, we just add them together. So total area equals 60 plus 36, which is 96 centimeters squared. And that is your answer. 96 centimeters squared. That is it. On to question 24. A pattern is made from 4 identical squares. The sides of the squares are parallel to the axes. Point A has coordinates 6, 7. Point B has coordinates 38, 36. And point C is marked on the diagram. Work out the coordinates of C. 5 marks, okay? Now, what we want to do is possibly what could we do here? We could work out the coordinate of that point over there. Okay, so that would be the x value for the coordinate of C. Okay, now in order for us to do this, we need to work out the whole entire length from here to here. Okay, once we work out that, then we can divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4. Once we divide it by 4, then we know the exact length of each of those lengths over here. And remember, because they're squares, is it a square? Yes, it is. It's a square. That means that these lengths will also be equal to that. Okay, so let's do that quickly. We want to work out this point over here, so let's just highlight that there. Now, the x value at point A is 6, and the x value at point B is 38. So the total distance over here is 38 minus 6, which is what? 32. Now we do 32 divided by 4, which is 8. So each length is 8 centimeters. Okay, not centimeters, but 8 units. All right, so if it is 8 units, so this is 8 and this is 8, that's all we need to know. We don't need to know the other two. Okay, so what I can do is, for the x values, I can just continue to add 8. Okay, so this over here will be 6 plus 8. Okay, so what is 6 plus 8? 14. There we go, 14. And then for this point here, you just do 14 plus 8, which is 22. Okay, or you could have just done 16, 6 plus 16, 8 plus 8, 16, yeah? And you've got 22 as well, all right? So we know our x coordinate is 22, so let's put that here. Sorry, that's the y coordinate there. (22) over here. And now we can work out our y coordinate, all right? The order over here is 36, yeah? Something that I can see is that instead of working from 7 and working our way up, we're going to work from 36 downwards, because point C over here is exactly 2 squares down. Exactly 2 squares down. So this over here is 8, and this over here is also 8. So I'm basically just going down 2 squares. To get to point C, I'm just going down 2 squares. Whereas if I go from point A to point C, so from 7 to C, I'm going up 1 whole entire square, and then I'm going up another fraction of the square, which I do not know. So there's technically no point of me even using this 7 bit over here. Alright? I'm going to do this. So over here, I know that this is going to be 8, so, and then subtract another 8. So I can just do minus 16. 36 minus 16, which is 20. So that part over here is 20. Minus 16, okay? Because that's 8 over here, and then 8 over here, so that's minus 16 altogether. Alright? So your y value, for this point would be 20. So your answer would be 22, 20. And that is it for question 24. Question 25 says, on the grid below, draw the graph of y equals 1 minus 4x for the values of x from minus 3 to 3. 3 marks. It's easy, okay? We're just going to draw a table for our x and y values, alright? So we have our x values here. Let's do this in black. So we have our x values here, and we have our y values here, alright? We know that it goes all the way from minus 3 to 3, so we have minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're just going to substitute our x values into the equation to work out our y values, okay? So I'm going to do that for each one over here. So y equals 1 minus 4 multiplied by minus 3. So minus 4 times minus 3 is 12, plus the 1 will be 13. So this will be 13 over here. I'm going to do the same for minus 2. So we have 1 minus 4 minus 2. So minus 4 times minus 2 is 8, plus 1 will be 9. Okay, you could probably skip through this, so I'm just going to quickly work this out. So that is 4, that'll be 5. That is 0, that will be 1. I'm going to do the rest on this side. That's minus 4. 1 minus 4 is minus 3. Minus 8, 1 minus 8 is minus 7. That's minus 12. 1 minus 12 is minus 11. Okay, so these are all our points that we need to plot. Okay, so our first point is minus 3, 13. So let's go to minus 3, 13. That would be over here. I'm actually going to do it in red so I can see. Then we have minus 2, 9. So minus 2. Oh, sorry. Wrong point. Minus 3, 13. Y is positive. So it'll be minus 3, 13. So over here. Then we have minus 2, 9. So that would be over here. Then we have minus 1, 5. So 5 is here, minus 1. Then we have 0, 1. So 0, 1. Then we have 1 minus 3. So that is here. Then we have 2 minus 7. And then we have 3 minus 11. That is all our points. Now we just need to join these together and make sure you use a ruler. So there you go. And we've plotted the graph for y equals 1 minus 4x. That's it. That's how simple it is. You just need to draw these, this graph, sorry, this table, and then just substitute your values in. That's it. Easy 3 marks. Question 26. The vector A is 5, 2. The vector B is minus 1, 7. Work out 2A plus B as a column vector. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to work out what 2A is, okay? So 2A is basically 2 times the vector A, which is 5, 2. So that would just be 10, 4, okay? So that is 2A. 2A equals 10, 4. Now we want 2A plus B. So that's basically going to be 10, 4 plus minus 1, 7, okay? So 10 plus minus 1 is basically just 10 minus 1, which is 9. And then 4 plus 7, 7 plus 3 is 10, so plus 1 will be 11. So as a vector, 2A plus B will be 9, 11. And that is our answer, 9, 11. So just multiply the vector by 2 for vector A, and then plus your vector B to get 9, 11. And that is it. I think that is the final question. Yeah, so that is it. So that is the end of this paper. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to TutorLab for more GCSE Maths walkthroughs. This was paper 1, non-calculator, June 2018. In my next video, I will be going through paper 2, June 2018, foundation. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.